Hello, hello. Welcome to another day of excellent sports talk with Mark. I'm your host, as usual, Mark Bradley, and I am glad to have you here for another week of great sports. And we have a lot of good topics today, and it's that time. It's just that time that we all been waiting for. It's sports is back in full swing, and we are going to go ahead and dive into all of those topics today. So to begin with today's topic, we are going to go ahead and start on the MLB season and how things are going on so far. Early into the season, we're going to go ahead and discuss that. And then we are going to continue to the NFL. The NFL has recently just started their training camp, and we are going to go ahead and start and talk about that. And then we're also going to talk about the NBA. Of course, the NBA has just restarted their season last night, so the real deal has started. No more scrimmages, and it's time to get in action. So we're going to go ahead and get started into that. So let's go ahead and start with the MLB season. So the MLB is finally back. They started last week, and now it's the full swing just going on. The season is in full swing, and it's been going. But unfortunately, it's been a really up and down type of situation with the MLB so far, because the MLB has canceled a lot of games so far, unfortunately, due to some of the staff members at the games, and some of the players as well recently were positive for COVID-19. And unfortunately, the MLB is basically the only sport at this moment who has recently been hit with the COVID-19 situation. And this kind of goes back to if the MLB should have adopted the bubble system as like the like the NBA and the NHL. The NHL also have a bubble system coming up, and it's been working. It's been working for the NHL and the NBA, because they have recently, the last two times for the NBA, they had no symptoms from COVID-19. No player nor staff has had that coronavirus symptoms, nor the NHL. They recently just passed all the players and all the staff have recently just passed their tests, and everybody's negative for COVID-19. So it just goes back to the MLB's thinking that they should have adopted a bubble system that would have worked for the MLB, because the MLB has the players traveling to different states to play their games, and unfortunately, it hasn't been working. And I think we could honestly say that we're not surprised that this is happening, because the MLB, it took them a while to really figure out what we was going to do for the season, and they drug it out for so long that it's like basically the end of the season. Like, it's July. Well, I wouldn't say that, because baseball basically goes all the way into October, which is the longest season forever in all times. But just to think about baseball players only playing 60 games, that's not a lot at all. That's not a lot to baseball standards, which is usually 162 games. So 60 games is really not a lot. But like I said, the baseball commissioner, Rob Manfred, drug it out for so long that it left players like in the in the dark, and they was trying to figure out what was their next move as far as safety issues, and it hasn't been working. Unfortunately, it has not been working, and it's unfortunate that it has to come down to this. So now baseball is basically canceling a lot of games, and now they have to make it up by playing double headers in the near future. And unfortunately, that's going to be tough as far as travel and anything of that nature, because I don't think the players enjoy playing double headers. But recently the commissioner said for double headers that it will only be 7 innings, so it wouldn't go as far as the usual 9 innings that baseball players are accustomed to. So that's positive for them, so they don't really have to play a full game. But it's not good for the MLB to see them in this light and not really doing an excellent job of keeping these players safe, and also the staff members who also was positive for COVID-19. So basically, the MLB has a lot of work to do, and they have to take necessary steps to really get things back in order, right? So with that, but the season will continue as planned. There's no stoppage or anything that's going to happen. They're going on. They're going full swing. They're going to make sure that the season will continue. So we are going to go ahead and look at some of the early division leaders as far as it goes from the MLB season right now. So let's go ahead and start on that. So we're going to start in the American League. And so the American League East, the New York Yankees is leading the AL East. And I don't think this is a surprise to anybody, because we all know New York's track record. They're a very good team. They're a very powerful team. And they can also pitch as well. So as far as the Yankees leading the division, I'm not surprised. They're predicted to be a World Series team, and they're just doing what they're doing. So we're going to go ahead and continue on to the AL Central, and the Cleveland Indians so far are the division leaders right now with a 5-2 record. And this is not a surprise to me either. The Indians are one of those teams who's under the radar really good every year, and nobody really thinks about it because it's the Cleveland Indians, right? They're not a big market team by any stretch of the imagination, but they play great baseball. So we're going to see if they are going to continue on with this hot start, because the Minnesota Twins are another team who does really well. Who plays really well, and we're going to have to see if they can go ahead and continue on with this great play. And I see the Minnesota Twins and the Cleveland Indians coming down to the end as far as who's going to be a division winner. And if not, then it's always, one of those teams could find a wild card spot in there, because they did expand the playoffs. As far as the playoffs are concerned, they did expand it, so that's good for some of those teams who are who's usually the outside looking in, trying to get into the playoffs. It's be a good opportunity for them to get in. So you never know between one of those two teams, Minnesota Twins and the Cleveland Indians, one of them can slip into the wild card spot. So we're going to go ahead and continue with the AL West, and the Houston Astros are currently leading the division with a 3-3 record. Now, this is not the most interesting division in baseball right now. 3-3, you're at 500 and you're a division leader. That's That's not exactly the best that you want to be. You want to be a little bit above, but so Houston is a 3-3. The Angels are really not that good. Oakland is there as well, but it's not the most exciting division. I do believe Houston will win that division and will find a way to get into the playoffs, but it's one of those situations where you have to win a division or you're not going to make the playoffs. I think that's what the AL West is giving me right now. Now, I could be wrong. I mean, of course, there's only 6 games into many of these teams into this team season. So it could be somebody catch fire in the division and establish themselves as that true division leader in that division. But right now it's not looking that way. It's not looking that way. But you never know. It could get to that point. It could get to that point. And Houston is a team that can catch fire at any given moment. And they have that firepower where they could do it. So I wouldn't be surprised if Houston, carries themselves and manage to continue on with the division in the AL West. So we are going to go ahead and continue on to the National League. The National League so far is going on, and we're trying to. I'm going to go ahead and pull up the standings because for some reason I forgot to write them down, but we got them right here. So let's go ahead and continue on. So the National League East is a little different, okay, because right now Miami is the division leader, but they only have a 2-1 record. And this is where I go back to the point where the coronavirus kicked in, because Miami was one of those teams that was hit hard with many of the players and the staff having COVID-19. So they canceled a lot of their games. So they're still the division winners, but they haven't played many games. So Atlanta right now is 4-3, and they are in second place. So they have a better record. But if Miami go ahead and do what they have to do, handle their business, and continue to get wins, they will still be in first place. But right now, Miami has that little asterisk on the side of their names as a division winner because they really haven't played any games due to the COVID-19 system. So we have to continue on the lookout for the NL East. So we are going to go ahead and continue with the NL Central. And who's holding that division down right now is the Chicago Cubs with a 4-2 record. And the Chicago Cubs is, of course, one of those really strong get home runs type of team. And they are going to continue. The Chicago Cubs has been a very consistent team ever since they won the World Series. Now, they couldn't get over the hump because they fell into some good Dodgers teams that supposed to win the World Series. Unfortunately, they got cheated out of a few World Series, but they ran into some good teams in the playoffs, and they just couldn't get over that hump and recreate that magic that they had when they did win the World Series. So are they going to continue on? I think it's going to be a tight race between the Chicago Cubs and the Milwaukee Brewers. The Milwaukee Brewers is always a good team that's always on the heels of the Chicago Cubs, and you can never count them out. And they play consistent baseball, and it should be on the lookout for them. So Chicago Cubs is holding now that division, and then we are going to continue on with the NL West, and the NL West seems to be the best division by far in baseball because they currently have 3 teams that are really fighting for the division. So the Colorado Rockies is division holder right now with a 4-1 record. the Colorado Rockies is one of those teams who always plays hard, and they have a lot of big bats in Colorado. And of course, playing in Colorado with that mile high air, the ball travels far. So getting home runs in Colorado is very easy. Very easy. Getting runs in general in Colorado is really easy. So they are doing an excellent job of holding down that division. And then we have a tie for second place, which is the Los Angeles Dodgers and the San Diego Padres. Now, we all know the Dodgers. They have been a great team for countless years. Over the past 5 years, they've been the best team in baseball, and they consistently show it. But of course, when it gets to the playoffs, something completely goes wrong, and it's not good for them. So right now, Los Angeles is 5-2. We're not. I don't think anybody's surprised with the great start that they had. They recently had a sweep of the Houston Astros, which is a big statement because they did want to show that they was the better team because of the cheating that they endured during the World Series the last time they played each other. So the Dodgers did what they had to do in Houston and came out with the great sweep. And then yesterday they had a great win against the Arizona Diamondbacks, who's really not the best team in the world right now. And then we have the Padres. The Padres have a great pitching, and they're getting their bats in order as well. So the Padres, Manny Machado is one of the best third basemen out there in the world in the world of baseball. So the San Diego Padres are doing what they have to do to stay in the division. Now, usually what they do, they start off hot and then they fizz away at the midway point of the season. And Colorado's the same. So we're going to see if the division can keep up like this. Of course, they'll weed themselves out when they play each other in conference. But as far as it goes right now, those three teams are really holding it down. And it's looking like it's one of those situations again where, whoever doesn't win the division will win the wild card, and they'll have a lot of representation from the NL West. So, because those are three excellent teams that started off the gates really fast. So those are the division winners as far as right now, and baseball, it's going now. Like I said, going back to the COVID-19, if they can manage to get things back in order, but we'll have to see how that goes, and we can get the games back to normal, and things can start working themselves out when they start to get to the playoff time. And baseball has a lot of work. I have to say that baseball has a lot of work to do, and hopefully they can get it together at the end of the day. But it's looking tough. Rob Manfred needs a lot of help right now. So we are going to continue on with the NFL training camp. And if you have any questions or comments that you want to make, feel free to go ahead and leave me a comment. We can go ahead and talk about your favorite baseball team. Are they having a good season right now? Are they struggling? Let me know. We can have a great interactive moment. So you can go ahead and comment on Facebook, and I can see it over here on my little trusty dusty laptop. Or you can comment on YouTube, and I'll be able to highlight the comments right down here. So let's continue on with the NFL training camp. So the NFL training camp has begun, and this is the time where people really start thinking about football and start to really think about how their teams are going to do this year. And we all get that football fever late July, early August, because usually this is the time where they start having preseason games. But unfortunately, there is no preseason this year. And that's going to be really different, because we all know preseason is the time where you get to see where how players have been developing their game, and they can use that on the field so they can see their development of their game. And also, it's a time to see how the teams are going to do, coming together, meshing well with each other. And preseason is a good time to really see how teams are working well together. So unfortunately, it's no preseason due to the pandemic that is going on. And the NFL has been seeing a lot of hardship going on because a lot of players are opting out of this season due to the virus. And that's understandable, right? Because people want to make sure that their families are all right, and that they won't come back sick and give it to the rest of their families. So there has been a lot of players opting out. It's been a lot of players, especially for the Patriots. On the Patriots defense, took a hard hit because a lot of them has recently opted out of the season. So they're not going to play the whole season. They want to be safe. So the Patriots took a huge hit. And so it's funny to really think about this. Now, could this be a point where, some teams might not be that great, and players know that, hey, this year we might not be in playoff contention at all. We might be one of the worst teams in the NFL. Do we just go ahead and skip the season altogether because of the pandemic? I mean, why risk it all? Why risk getting sick for just lose every week, right? Now, it might be that line of thinking. I'm not sure, because players do want to play for their teams and play for their brothers, and I get that. No matter how bad the team is, but players also do want to be safe. And the NFL is another one of those organizations that took them a long time to really figure out what they was going to do safety wise. And it left players in the dark because it was coming up to training camp, and players was like, look, I'm not going to training camp. I'm not going to training camp not knowing what the NFL is going to do as far as this pandemic. So why would I go to training camp? So I think what the NFL did, Roger Goodell did, was just, come up with something, right? So players can have some sense of knowledge of how the NFL is going to take the necessary steps for players to be safe. So it was hard for the players. The players was like, look, we got to know something, or we are not playing. So they figured it out, but I don't think it's the best plan. But I mean, look, things are going to continue as planned as far as the NFL season is going on, and they're going to continue. Now, this was another thought that came in my head as far as fans attending the game. Now fans are allowed to go to the games. There has been ticket sales, and they're making it they're making it happen. Now, of course, NFL is not going to miss out on their money. So they're of course they was going to have fans in the season. Not like the NBA, because NBA get their money regardless, but the NFL is really money hungry. Let's be real. The NFL and the owners are really money hungry, and they're going to do everything in their power to continue to get their money, right? So, as far as the NFL's plan for fans to be in attendance for the game now. Excuse me. Now I don't know how they're going to control that, because a lot of people love to tailgate. A lot of fans love to tailgate in the NFL. So people always come together, tailgate, have a good time. Are they going to stop that? Are they going to stop that? So that's going to be interesting. As far as them getting to the stadium, are they all going to be spread out? Are they all going to be spread out throughout the whole stadium? That's another thing to really think about. And of course, as far as fans wearing masks at the game, that's another thing to think about, because not all fans are going to follow the rules and find a way to not have their mask on throughout the game. So there's a lot of moving parts going on as far as fans attending the game, and I hope they can figure it out. I hope that the NFL could figure it out as the season is approaching, because look, the season is going to be here before you know it, and they're going to have to take those steps to really make sure that not only the fans but the players are safe. But look, training camp is still on the move, and the NFL is going to go like they've been, and I'm pretty sure everyone is excited for the season, because look, let's be real. We Americans love their football. I say it all the time. We love our football, and that's one of the sports that was going to happen regardless. That was going to happen, and I think it would have been a bad situation if the NFL wasn't going to go ahead and go on. But it's going to happen, and we're going to be excited for it. We're gonna see which teams going to take a step up and become that one team that everybody's going to look at. We're going to look at the Baltimore Ravens, because the Ravens was the best team last year, and I thought they was a Super Bowl contender, but unfortunately it didn't happen that way. And we're going to see if Lamar Miller recreates that magic that he had this year, because people are going to expect Lamar Jackson to people are going to expect what Lamar Jackson did last year, and they're going to be ready for him, right? They're going to do some special exotic looks for Lamar Jackson. We're going to see if he can recreate that magic, and we're also going to see if Patrick Mahomes can lead the Chiefs again to another Super Bowl after his humongous payday he just had. It's a lot of money. So we're going to see if the Chiefs are still the same. We're going to see if that defense can step up, because defense wasn't exactly the best, but they did play well when it was playoff time. So we're going to see that, and it's a lot of new storylines that the NFL is creating this year, and we are all excited for it. I know everyone is excited for the NBA, or excuse me, the NFL to continue on with their season. So I'm excited. I know everybody else is excited as far as the NFL season. So let's go ahead and continue on. This is kind of like an impromptu topic. And so we're going to talk about some of the NCAA movements that they have made. And we talked about this on a show earlier. And we talked about how the conferences are coming up with decisions on how they should approach the season as far as the pandemic is happening, and they're being safe, and they're trying to take safety measures as far as for the players and staff. So the SEC the SEC is basically the best conference in all of college football, has decided to make a 10-game schedule, an in-conference schedule that they are going to go ahead with. And this is no surprise. This is no surprise at all, right? Because the SEC is the best conference in college football. And just imagine no SEC for a whole year. That would have been different. That would have been very different. But they did decide to go ahead and continue on with the season. And this is no surprise at all. And for all the Power 5 conference, we're talking about the Pac-12, the SEC, the ACC, Big 10, and the Big 12. That's 5, right? Pac-12, ACC, Big 12, Big 10, and the SEC, right? They was going to find a way to have a season. People really look for those games. And for them to not have a season, that would have been pretty mind-blowing, if you would ask me. And of course, players want their safety. But man, sometimes these schools can get a little money hungry, right? And football is the best way for schools to make money, especially when you're a top program, which the SEC produce every year, as far as, Alabama, LSU, Georgia, Tennessee, just to name a few in the SEC. They generate a lot of money. And especially with them having rivalry games, that's another big way of how they're going to make money. Now, it's going to be different because as we go back to the NFL situation, as far as having fans there, college football usually have a lot of students there that goes to the game. So now they have to limit that. So that's going to hurt their pockets a little bit, right? The school's pockets a little bit. But they're still going to find a way for these players to play and to make money for their schools. And these players can earn their scholarship. Because honestly, if I know some of the players are a little concerned about, playing this year, because everybody wants to be safe from this. I mean, this is nothing to be played with as far as the pandemic. But some players, as far as seniors who wants to play their last year of their college career, this is good for them. Now, for players who are in a lower conference and they did manage to and they did manage to not have a season until next year, they was able to keep their scholarships and they could possibly play next year. But I know it has to hurt for a lot of lower division schools, but you have to be safe. But it seems like this year the Power 5 conferences are going to pretty much be the bulk of college football this year. And I'm pretty sure that's fine, especially as far as people who do broadcast the game, like ESPN. As long as they're getting their money, I think everything is okay with them. But you got to continue on with what the conference says. And look, I'm one of those people, like, if you want to opt out of the season, then that is perfectly fine. I mean, because this is scary times we live in, and you have to be safe as far as continuing on, past your football career or any sport that you do play that just happens to continue on. And opting out is not a problem at all. So it seems like things are going to continue as planned with the NCAA, and And I think these in-conference schedules are perfect if they're going to continue on with a football season. If they're going to continue on with the football season, because as far as you don't have to travel as far. You do not have to travel as far. You have protection from the virus, because traveling a far ways could lead to bad problems, and you don't want to be around people too often while you travel during these times. So if you one of those top schools that usually have enough money for to travel, like a private flight, why not go ahead and travel, so. But on the flip side, it hasn't been working as well in the MLB's case. And I'm pretty sure they fly private all the time, and people still found a way to get sick while they traveled. And the bubble system seemed to be working for other sports programs. So you really have to think about that when you're the NCAA, because traveling hasn't been working. It has not been working, and it's been rough. So I hope that the NCAA can figure out ways to keep these players safe while they go ahead and continue on with the season. So it's going to be interesting to see how they approach this between now and September. So hopefully they can really get it together, the NCAA, and make sure everyone is safe. Especially college players. I mean, these guys are only 18 up to 21. These guys are still young, so they have a long ways to go as far as continue on with their careers, as far as student athletes. And you want to make sure that you stay safe for the future. And you definitely don't want to get sick, especially if you're a senior, knowing that you're going to make it to the NFL and you get the virus, and that derails a lot of stuff for you, because you can't practice. You have to be in quarantine for 2 weeks. You start getting sick, losing a lot of weight, which is always tough for football players, because you definitely don't want to lose weight, because these guys are big and strong as far as for college and the pros. So you really have to look at it that way. But it's a lot of things to think about when it comes to sports, for football in general. And I do believe the NCAA will get everything right as far as how they're going to work out everything, and they're going to do everything in their power to make sure these students are safe. And as far as the fans as well, maybe they have everything in order. I lost the train of thought, but we do have a question. How do you feel about Notre Dame moving to the ACC? I'm not surprised that they did, because Notre Dame is one of those independent schools that can just make their own schedule and just play whoever they feel like it. And that's not going to be the case this year, because you don't want to travel due to their safety, due to player safety. So just find a home, just find a home and play that conference schedule, because I believe if they did move to the ACC as far as Notre Dame, they wouldn't have a season at all, right? So this is good. Now, I don't know how well Notre Dame is going to do in the ACC, because they're going to have to play some tough games week in and week out. And it's not like Notre Dame can just, schedule who they want to and feel like, hey, this is a good team, but I feel like we can beat them type situation. They have to play very good teams in the ACC, and we're going to see if they're a top team this year. So So unfortunately, they couldn't play USC, which is always a great matchup. But I think the ACC is a good fit for Notre Dame as far as them continue on with the pandemic. So that's a good question. I appreciate the question. And so we are going to continue on from the NCAA, and we are going to go ahead and talk about the NBA restart. So the NBA has recently restarted their season, and oh my goodness, it was an amazing 2 games. It was an amazing 2 games. It did not disappoint at all. So the first game of the NBA restart was between the New Orleans Pelicans and the Utah Jazz. And this was a good back and forth game. So New Orleans, they came out to play. They came out to play, and they did what they had to do in the first half. Everybody was playing well. They was playing great defense, and they managed to go into halftime in double figures, which is great for New Orleans because they had an extremely up and down season. We didn't know they could get to this point, but they had an excellent first half. But I don't know what happened in the second half, but Utah just managed to come back and make it a great game. It was close. And Jordan Clarkson, he was the leading scorer off the bench with 23 points. And also Mike Conley and Donovan Mitchell scored 20 points as well. The whole starting 5 from the Utah Jazz played really well. Everybody in the starting 5 of the Utah Jazz was in double figures, so they have a very balanced scoring game. And unfortunately, Zion Williamson only played 15 minutes in his first game back, but he didn't miss too many shots. He ended up with 13 points for the Pelicans, and he did an excellent job of getting to the lane, doing what he's doing, uses his strength really well because he's not exactly the tallest guy in the NBA, but he's so much stronger than these guys, and he can finish around the rim. He's so athletic that makes up for the height. So he did an excellent job with the minutes he played. He didn't play too many minutes, but the star of the show was Brandon Ingram, right? Brandon Ingram had 23 points and looked great for the Pelicans. You can tell his game has improved so much since he left Los Angeles. And I thought when he was traded, he was going to do an excellent job for the New Orleans Pelicans because now it's his time to shine, and he doesn't have to play around LeBron James. And LeBron James is going to get majority of the touches, whoever he plays for, right? So Brandon Ingram played great with his 23 points, but unfortunately, it came down to a game winner, and Brandon Ingram missed the 3-point that went in and out. And unfortunately, New Orleans Pelicans did not win. The Utah Jazz came out with the victory. But this is a really tough loss for the Pelicans because they're outside looking in, trying to get into the playoffs. And you lose a game that you basically had in the first half and just let it slip away and lose a game winner that was this close. And now it's an uphill climb because they're trying to catch Memphis and they have to play the Los Angeles Clippers next, which is not an easy task at all. So that really hurt New Orleans, and a lot of analysts and a lot of people had New Orleans slipping into that A spot, beating out Memphis, who currently hosts that spot. But that was tough. That was so tough for the New Orleans Pelicans, man. If they can manage to beat the Clippers, then look, that's going to be a huge win for them. But it's hard for me to see them beating the Clippers. So we're gonna go ahead and look out for the New Orleans Pelicans and also the other teams who are on the outside looking there, as far as like Portland going trying to get that last spot, and then we're gonna see if Memphis can maintain that 8th spot, because the West is extremely tough. It's a lot of talent out there, and you have to look out for a lot of teams. Portland played extremely well before the NBA shut down, and so we have to see how that the West is going to be shooken up. So with that, the Pelicans losing, Utah getting that big win. The last game of the doubleheader was the battle for LA. The Los Angeles Lakers and the Los Angeles Clippers, and it was another battle. It was, oh my goodness, it looked like a gladiator battle from both these teams, the Clippers and the Lakers. So in the beginning of the game, Los Angeles Lakers was sharp. They looked like the better team. Anthony Davis had a great first quarter. I believe he had 14 points before he went to the bench. And he was just asserting his dominance like he does every game. So he did not disappoint. But it was a whole different story in the second quarter. So Kawhi Leonard, he went off. Kawhi Leonard went off in the second quarter. He didn't go off in the first quarter because he was in foul trouble. So he basically didn't play like the whole back half of the first quarter. But he played majority of the second quarter, and oh my goodness, he was scoring. He was getting to his spots on the floor. He was using that excellent mid-range. And I say this all the time. This might be a hot take, but I say this all the time. I think the closest player, as far as skill-wise, I'm not talking about accolades or who's the better player. As far as skill-wise, Kawhi Leonard is the closest thing to Kobe Bryant as I've seen in my eyes. And I always say that because if you really look at his game, he gets to his spots in that mid-range point, that sweet spot he loves, and he has that fadeaway that is beautiful. And he also has a turnaround jumper that is beautiful as well. He's closest to Kobe skill-wise, like game-wise, as anybody I've seen in recent times. And he showed it. He had an excellent second quarter, and they had the Clippers close. It was 55-52 at halftime. The Lakers were still winning. The third quarter, the Clippers came out on fire. Paul George, who had an excellent game, was playing well, making a lot of threes, and Kawhi Leonard was playing as well. Also, and the Lakers was getting silly turnovers in the start of the third quarter, and the Clippers managed to get into the double digits. It was 11 when Frank Vogel, the coach of the Lakers, called a timeout, and that was an excellent timeout. That was a good time where they regrouped and the Lakers managed to get their thoughts in order, and they came back with a quick 5-0 run. A quick 5-0 run of the Clippers, and then Anthony Davis started to take over again. He had 2 clutch threes to get the Lakers back into 1 point. I believe it was 77-76. And LeBron James, who didn't have the best game, he didn't start off too well. LeBron James didn't do too much in the first 3 quarters, but he was doing an excellent job facilitating. I could say that, and also rebounding, doing the little things. But LeBron James managed to get it going in the fourth quarter, boy. LeBron James had some excellent baskets, clutch baskets in the fourth quarter while the game was coming down to the wire. LeBron James was getting to the basket like he does all the time, and he does an excellent job of getting to the lane when they need a bucket. And you're also hitting clutch threes. And when it came down to it, you know who had to take the game-winning shot? LeBron James. LeBron James, he had a tough runner. He had a tough runner against Paul George, I believe. But he managed to get his own rebound and a putback for the game winner. And look, LeBron James really took over. Really took over for the Lakers. And then, oh my goodness, did we not see how LeBron James played defense at the end? LeBron James played excellent defense, not only Kawhi, who was extremely strong, and also switched on Paul George, who he made Paul George basically have to take a shot from the half court line. And anybody who knows basketball knows that you want a player to be basically by half court while it's on crunch time, because that's a hard shot trying to make when it's 4 seconds and you want to get off a good shot. So Paul George had to take a bad shot. We got a comment. I predict the LA Lakers, LA Dodgers, and LAFC winning the championship. That's a lot of Los Angeles teams that you have predicted there. I can see. I mean, we all know about the Dodgers, and when they get into the playoffs, they just become a totally different team. And the LAFC has been a great soccer team for a long time, and they only been in the league for about 4 or 5 years. Now already bringing in their dominance, and then the Lakers, who's been dominant all year. It seems like all roads lead between them and the Bucks. So I can see that happening. I could see Los Angeles just rejoicing this season as far as their sports teams, because they have great sports teams. They just got to get over that hump. That's the only thing about it. But at the end of the day, we was talking about LeBron James and how he got his putback, the game-winning putback, and also played excellent defense on Kawhi Leonard and Paul George for the last stop for the game. And so the game was won. The Lakers 103-101. Anthony Davis scored 34 points. And LeBron James, he didn't have the best scoring game, but he did have a double-double with 16 points and 11 rebounds. And I heard this a lot. This was a statement game for both of these teams. Now, both of these teams, let's be real, they don't have much to play for. We already know they're in the playoffs, right? So Clippers, they have a little bit more to play for because they're kind of in a tight race between Denver and the Clippers for the second seed in the Western Conference. I believe if the Denver Nuggets do what they have to do and get the win, whoever they play, I can't remember who they play, that they'll be a half game behind the Clippers for the second seed. So the Clippers have more to play for, but this is a statement game for both teams. Both teams want to show, hey, I'm the best team in the West, because they didn't have to play their starters. They didn't have to play their starters for this long. Like I said, they don't have much to prove. They're in the playoffs already. It's no home court advantage, so why do we have to play for that, right? But they want to show that, look, we're the best team. We're not backing down. So They played, and boy, they showed out. It was a battle, and I was all for it. I was all for the NBA restart. Oh my goodness, I was excited, and Paul and the Clippers did what they had to do to get that win. And everybody said they weren't at full strength, right? So that's a big deal, because could the game been different if Lou Williams had a play and Montrezl Harrell? It could have, because they did lose only by 2 points without those two, and those two are big contributors to the team. So this could be a different story when it comes down to playoff time, because they don't play each other anymore. The Los Angeles Lakers and Los Angeles Clippers don't play each other anymore in the season. But they did what they had to do to get that win. It just came just one shot short. Paul George had 30 points, and Kawhi Leonard had 28 points. You know, the star showed up. The star showed up when they needed to, and it was an excellent game. And look, if the NBA is going to give us this for the rest of the season, I cannot lie, I'm all for it. I am all for it. So we have more games coming today on ESPN, so make sure you stay tuned to that. And the NBA is back. We all waited for this. It's an excellent moment. We had the chance for the players to express themselves during the Black Lives Movement. Everybody had the chance to kneel down, coaches and staff in unison. It was great. I loved it. So the NBA showed out, and it was a great first two games. And I'm excited to see where the NBA goes from here, because they've been doing an excellent job of keeping everybody safe, doing an excellent job, make sure these players are accommodated as far as, you know, their living situations, and, you know, staying safe inside the bubble there at Orlando, Florida. And yeah, basketball's back. That's all I can say. So that is the end of our show for this week. I want to thank everybody who constantly shows up each and every week to the show. And we will be here at the same time as always, from noon to 1 Pacific Standard Time. And we're moving into the new month, right? Moving into the new month. And I hope everybody continues on being safe out of this virus. And if you guys are out enjoying life, getting back to the normal routine or working, that you guys are safe out there and are, you know, just doing what you have to, so we can all get through this virus and get back to normal life. So hopefully next week we can go ahead and speak more about the NBA and any other topics that does show up in the world of sports. And it's a lot easier to talk about sports now that it's moving ahead. So, and now we're getting back into normal life with sports. So again, I want to thank you for tuning in, and I will be here next week, same time, same place. All right. So I'll get with you guys next week. Peace.